Hello and welcome to the SEGA Nerdcast, episode 90. Is it 91 or 92? I can't remember for
I
sure,
think
I think
but
it's
92.
91, but it's been so
91.
long, it might as well be whatever we come up with.
We're going to have to retitle this because it says 92. But anyway, I'm Chris, the editor of SEGA Nerds, and with me this week are Kopke and Marson. How's it going, guys?
Hello.
What's up?
How you doing? What's up?
What's good?
It's a nice Saturday afternoon here in New Jersey.
Indeed, the light is shining. I feel like a vampire. Just want to put the blinds on.
It sucks.
Yeah, it's sunny here.
All through the week, I'm waiting for the weekend so I can sleep in and just relax a little bit.
Right?
What happens? I wake up at 5 o'clock this morning, not able to go back to bed.
You're like an old person. Old people wake up at 5 a.m.
Yeah,
and
but
then go
then
on
I
mall
started
walks.
playing the Battlefront demo, or beta. So.
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, it's good. I'm having a good time with it.
Sweet. 'Cause I'm enjoying it too. That's actually one of the things I played this week.
Nice. We'll get into that in a little bit. But let's go around real quick and talk about what we've been up to. Let's go first.
Okay.
Marson, why don't you go?
Me? Kopke? Who?
Who?
I'll go.
You go,
I'll
Marson.
I'll go. Why not? So basically, this whole week, I mean, in addition to work, because I think that's a given, I was trying to figure out how to make the perfect Solid Snake costume, and I can't get it under a budget of $200. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to have to pull out a loan or something and file for bankruptcy. But in addition to that, I bought Alien Isolation for $18, even though the
Wow.
game is still costing $60 normally. I got it for $18 pre-owned, obviously, but I mean the game still works, so it doesn't matter. In addition to that, I helped my friend start his YouTube channel. And the first video we did, just cause it's topical, which is weird, cause like a couple months ago, people were like Shenmue's topical. You're freaking crazy. Yeah, I did one of me wearing a Ryo Hazuki jacket. It was like kind of in the style of The Office kind of thing, where it was kind of like just deadpan ask me questions and then going to stupid scenarios. We're gonna do a couple of like things in addition to some of the stuff that was on there, like me chasing geese, which referenced like the duck racing thing in the game, to us trying to take a video of me going to a Japanese garden, but it was actually closed. So instead of getting shots of the garden, it was just me screaming "Why" into the camera because it was closed. So I thought that was funny. But yeah, that's what I've been up to this week.
The Mega 64 guys had a pretty good Ryu Hazuki Shinmu video a few years ago. I don't know if you saw that.
I think I did, but it's like I'm drawing a blank. I know most Shenmue videos I've seen, but I'm just a freak, so yeah.
Was it the one with the made-up Shenmue 3 story?
I don't think so. I don't think that's it.
We'll have to rewatch it, and then we'll get back to you guys, audience members.
Yeah, do that.
Yes.
Cop, what about you? What have you been up to?
A lot of work, like always, like making a lot of illustrations, also been recording some of the episodes. So I do as a figure reviewer for a site here that's called Atomics. Also had a really tough week, I think, the middle of September, because I was covering the Tokyo Game Show news, and I really had to stay up really late to catch up what was going on with all that fuss. And
Oh,
it was really interesting.
yeah, I mean, and I don't know if I said this, but I really appreciate you doing that because I would not be able to stay up that long, and I think you have it easier with the Japanese news than I would. So, thank you for doing that.
No, actually, I did it because I wanted to try something different, because normally, like, what we do at Sega fan sites is like, this happened and that's it. But
Right.
I tried to do something different, like making like extended coverage of that, even if we're not there, but at least like making those reports so people can really make that content reachable for the people who want to know about it. Like,
Right.
it's not common that they do this. For example, uh, you know how many times Sega has been doing like streams like this, like making it available on YouTube. Not very often, and I
Right.
was really surprised that they did, and they really wanted everyone to participate in this. So I was very open and welcoming this. And for example, people were excited to see the 3D Classics producers making a chat and talk about how they're doing things, and invited Ken Sugimori, and he made a live sketch on the stream, and people were really excited about it. And I was surprised that a lot of guys also uh, um, stayed up really late night to watch all of the things, and it was pretty interesting. Like making a really open Sega TES.
Now, a couple of how I think it was back in July, they talked about how they want to regain the fans' trust by releasing quality games, right? And they said they were going to have one title to announce at Tokyo Game Show. I don't know if it was explicit what particular game that would be.
Well,
Like,
that was like sad, and well, sad for us, but happy for them because Satomi was speaking about the Japanese market and the Japanese consumers, not us, and so they are regaining those fans, not us. So because
which
we,
is not a good idea because there's a big portion of the world that would want games that are made by Sega, and they're kind
yeah,
of
but
alienating it.
he wasn't alienating us at all, but he was more being responsible for the market he's in charge
Right.
of.
Yes.
He
Yes.
cannot speak for Sega America and Europe because he's not in charge of those markets.
Right.
But the title was clearly Yakuza 6 and Yakuza Kiwami,
I'm
because
assuming that's what it was.
the
Those are the
the
games they're
the
talking about.
Japanese market was like really into that game. That friends of mine went to TES, and I actually got a lot of the TES stuff because of them, and some of the reports they helped me a lot with that. It was they were saying like every time a Persona 5 video or like the Yakuza 6 or Kiwami video were on display at TES, everybody turned around and looked at the monitor, and they didn't do anything else. Like it was into their full attention, those games, and it was like really surprising for them, like seeing how much the Japanese market are into these two titles. So Sega really has like two strong IPs there to attract their market.
Right.
That's for sure.
Alrighty then. Well, how about since we were talking about the Western market and how they should appeal to us as well, let's talk about some of the stuff that happened in the news. And this is one that actually
There's a
pertains
lot.
to the West. This one actually pertains to us Americans. So for our first news piece, it's Sonic-2, Sonic Boom. It's been released for iOS devices, so currently if you're an Android user, you have to wait a bit longer. But if you have an iPhone, which I don't, I have an HTC One, I'm going to have to wait. But if you do own the iOS, the iPhone, you could play Sonic-2. So with it, you could play as Sonic, Tails, Amy, Knuckles, and Sticks. And it also features a new team play mode. It'll allow you to play the game with up to 3 characters, and you can swap between them mid-race. So if you are sick and tired of Knuckles, you could go to Amy, or you could switch to Tails if you want. It also includes character-specific powers, which is certainly a nice addition. But also it'll be released on Android on October 15th. So 5 days away from me. So yeah.
Sonic. I haven't tried. I haven't tried the new Sonic Dash yet. I played the first one. I liked it. I haven't tried the new one. Have you tried it yet, Marcin?
I have tried it a little bit. Kopke, do you mind taking over just a little bit for the next news piece? I have to just check one thing out.
Okay, sure. The next piece of news is let me see where we are. 3D Sonic 2. Okay, as you already know, like Sega has been releasing these 3D classics on the 3DS, like making them on full 3D, taking advantage of the 3DS hardware. So 3D Sonic 2, which belongs to the second batch of these 3D classics, has been released for the West finally. So the price tag for this title is $5.99, and it includes, aside from the stereoscopic 3D, as we already said, it includes like packs like Greenkeeper mode, the stage select, and some of them which were very, very explicit. As you can see, also there's a review that's made, that's already on our site, that tells you how good is this game on the 3DS. So please try it. The next bit of news is also a release that happened this week. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no. Let's talk about. Oh, we're still on Sonic the Hedgehog 2, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Did you guys read the post on the Sega blog with the interview from like Okanari and the M2 guys?
Yeah.
I haven't, so you might have to enlighten me on that one.
It's pretty interesting because they talked about how when they first started the 3D classics, they knew that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 was one of the games that they always wanted to do, but they just weren't sure they were going to be able to do it because in the bonus levels, basically how it handled like the depth and some of the scrolling, they didn't know how they'd be able to implement that into 3D, and they were wondering that they may have to cut those out. And then they're also thinking that they wouldn't be able to do the 2-player. A lot of people don't realize that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 has 2-player simultaneous gameplay. They didn't know they were going to be able to do that either. But as they continue to make the other games, I think they said Gunstar Heroes was one they learned a lot in. They were able to go back and tackle some of those issues and actually get them resolved. But I don't think that all of the levels are available in the 2-player mode. I think they had to cut some of them. So that's one of the things.
Yeah, for example, Mystic Cave Zone makes a lot of stress on the processor, so I don't know if that's one made it to the final version, but I think that if that was an option, I could have done it.
Yeah, the Ringkeeper mode is also pretty cool because basically what ends up happening is instead of how it usually works in Sonic games, you get hit and you lose all your rings. You just lose half of your rings. So if you had like 50 rings, you get hit and you go down to 25, and if you get hit again, you go down to like 12, and then to 6, and then to 3, and then to 1. And so it basically, if you want, you can make it a lot easier, and then also with the stage select. But I mean, Sonic the Hedgehog 2 is really hard for. I remember just having a lot of problems with it, especially very right at the end. It's very difficult. So I think this makes it a lot easier for younger kids to get into, and just other people that don't have the time to sit there and play level after level after level over and over again. So I really like the way that M2's been doing these, just making it a little easier for people to get into the games and have a little bit more fun, especially some of these older games that are traditionally really hard. But before we go on to the other ones, I mean, this is the last 3D classic that Sega has said they're going to do up to this point. They haven't announced if they're going to continue a new batch yet. So do you guys think that the 3D classics is going to continue?
So just a quick question before you say anything, Copy. So the 3D games are made by which studio?
M2.
The M2. And is that part of the West or the Japanese Sega of Japan?
They are a Japanese studio, independent of Sega, but they handle most of the ports for Sega. For example, do you remember a PlayStation 2 line that was called Sega Ages? Sega Ages 2500. Those guys ported most of those titles. For example, there's also this title Monster World 4, which was ported to the PlayStation 3.
Yes.
M2 handled that port in some of those.
Okay.
They have a lot of experience by porting to another systems. They're actually pretty good, and not only handle Sega, they handle another company's ports.
But to answer your question, Chris, I don't know. I actually don't know.
I think that's a tricky question. It depends on sales, and also depends. I think that it's kind of a pun intended. them saying like it's the last 3DS title because it hasn't been clear if Nintendo is still giving life to the 3DS or like going forward with its next generation console. And if that affects in some way the 3DS, they might be saying the truth by saying no more 3DS classics are coming because they are probably release more stuff for the next console. But we
I
don't
agree,
know that yet.
but
So.
I mean, I know this is a Sega podcast, but just a quick thing on Nintendo. I don't think they're gonna, they won't alienate the 3DS, because I think they treat it as its own thing, and I know that it's obviously more successful as a
Yeah, the
whole
Wii.
than the Wii U. So they are going to continue making games for it, despite what people might think.
But
I mean, they're going to make their next console, but I mean, when it comes to Sega games, I don't know.
for what I understand, the next console tackles like something sporadic, like kind of like mobile and handheld and something like that. So if that console is, the next console in the night of the Nintendo handhelds, it might be true that it would be the last 3DS 3D classics going out for that console. It makes sense to say that. It's like
Hmm.
kind of a spoiler, but it cannot be true also. So we don't know that yet. But I think the real thing that might decide if they release more or not is the sales, like finally, because we know the first batch didn't do that well, but these ones are more Western-centered titles. So I think if they
Sonic.
like level up those sales, I think we can see more in the future. And actually, we know that's not entirely true because that Japan recently announced that they're releasing the second volume that also has two more titles that weren't out before. These ones are Puyo Puyo 2 and the other Power Drift. So let's hope that Sega realizes that at least Power Drift has a huge demand here and trying to release it digitally
Well,
for the
what do
West.
you think, Chris? Do you think that they're going to release new 3D games? And if they do, which ones would you want to actually see come to the West, or
See,
make them in general?
I don't want to give away too much because Blake and I actually have a new feature coming out, a new face-off coming out about this very same topic. So I don't want to give away too much. But I will say that the 3D Classics have done one thing really, really important for Sega in that Sega, if you look here in the West, Sega has not really had a lot of releases between, since the 3D Classics started about, was it like a year and a half ago,
Mm-hmm.
whenever they first started coming out, between now, they just haven't had a lot of games. And the one thing the 3D Classics has been able to do is to continue keeping some sort of release from Sega coming out. Whether it's just 3 a month or 1 a month, however often they do it, it's been able to keep just a continued revenue stream for Sega on the 3DS. So I think from that standpoint, Sega might want to continue to do it because I think they're probably relatively easy. There's not a lot of that goes into doing it. From what M2 said, they for most of the previous games that they released, there was only one main designer or programmer that was working on them, and then there was like 3, I think, that had to do Sonic 2. But so it's a very, I think, low investment for Sega to be able to do compared to some of the other games that they're doing. So from that standpoint, I think it is a good thing for Sega because there's not a lot of money that they have to invest into getting these to come out. But at this point, I don't know how many more games that high-profile games that they're going to be able to continue to keep doing. I don't know. I'm trying to think like what I would really like. One game that I would really, really love for them to do, but I just think it would probably be just way too time.
Vectorman.
Vectorman would be
Vector
cool.
Man.
I was gonna say Phantasy Star would be awesome, just with the the dungeon crawling and things like that. I think that
Right.
would be really cool from a 3D perspective. That's something I'd always love to do and see. But Vectorman is another good one. There is definitely games that they could do, but I'm just not sure if Sega's gonna continue to invest in it. I don't know.
Mm.
It's
I
kind
think
of crazy.
they should do so because at least for the West, they don't do that more often introspection. Well, they don't do much introspection very often. Like, for example, hey, look, this was our past, or this was our Sega SG-1000 console. It was our first console. They never make that kind of history throwbacks or anything like that. And I think at least the 3D classics were the ones that were like, keeping your past alive and spreading it to more people and getting, like younger audiences to know what was some games like Altered Beast about. And they don't do that very often. And I think that the 3D classics were into that.
I would
I think
love
it
if
was
they
a
came
good
out
strategy.
and did a line of Master System releases. I think would be
Yeah.
really
That would be
neat.
fun.
Focusing on maybe like Zillion, and you could even throw in some like Game Gear games too. But
Alex
just
Kidd.
you have all the Alex Kidd games, the Mickey Mouse games that would be awesome on there. I think that would be cool to do, and even throw in a few like SG-1000 games would be pretty neat too. Champion Boxing was one of my favorites. There's definitely a lot of stuff there that they could do if they wanted to explore some of the like older back catalog
Saxon.
of games they have. Yeah,
Saxon
that'd
would be
cool.
nice for 3D. And also, there's another thing. There was the last time they did the first batch, they said, "Oh, this is the last batch we're doing for the 3D classes," and they came with the second one. So it might be true that they might come with a third one.
There's been
Sure.
like hints here and there, or how they kind of like coyly like hint like, oh no, this is gonna be the last, this is gonna be the last one.
Please
But
cry about it. Beg us to
actually,
release
they have, like,
another one.
in their eyes.
Money talks. Money talks.
Yeah, so we'll see what happens. But yeah, so I didn't mean to completely derail that, but we'll see what
It's
happens.
okay.
We were on
But
topic, so it's
the
okay.
one thing that you can do if you want to see more of these 3D classics is to go buy Sonic 2
Right.
on 3D.
Right.
Yeah.
So money talks.
Money
Yes.
sucks.
So are we? Did we already talk Sonic Dash 2?
Yeah, we already talked about
Yes.
it.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, my son came in the room, and I guess he didn't make it to the bathroom in time, and so he wet himself a little bit. So
Don't worry about it.
that
But don't say it in the video because it's recorded, and when your son grows up, he's gonna be, Dad, what did you talk about this?
It's forever on YouTube.
yeah, he's not
So
getting out of it now. But okay, Kaku, why don't you talk us through the next one, because I know it's kind of near and dear to your heart.
Okay, this week, Fighting Climax was finally released here in North America and Europe. So this is a game that people were asking a lot for, and it is a game that it is a crossover game. It's a crossover fighting game between the light novel Japanese publisher Dengeki Bunko and of course Sega. It has like Sega stages and Dengeki Bunko characters, and like 4 characters from the Sega branding. It's Silveria from Valkyria Chronicles, Alicia, and there's also the Virtual Fighter ones like Akira Yuki and Pai. And you got a lot of big characters from big franchises that are already into anime and light novels and some manga adaptations of this. And the game is doing pretty well. And during the week we had a report that Amazon was running on low stock for this title, and they actually stopped like shipping games, and they like delayed about 3 days so they can continue doing so. So it is pretty interesting. And I've seen like the worldwide feedback for this game. Like people are really happy with the game, and that's pretty exciting that it's making business for Sega, because that would mean that they would be like open to bring Fighting Climax Ignition to the West too, because this game is selling well. So that's pretty exciting. I think the only bad luck part is that Fighting Climax Ignition is coming in December. So there are some people out there that are saying, well, I'm not buying the Western version because Ignition is coming in December, so I'm waiting for buying Ignition instead of the Fighting Climax one. But people get the idea that saying, okay, if I don't support this game, they won't bring the other one. So they started to buy the regular version.
Yeah.
And I recommend people try it. It's a really fun fighting game. It's not like very technical. You can really learn how to use the characters very easily. It doesn't require skilled versions like the actual Street Fighters or like King of Fighters. So, and this one's pretty fun. Like has pretty good animations. It's pretty funny, and that's what I like it. It's like playing Marvel vs. Capcom 2. Like gives back the fun playing against friends and stuff like that.
Nice.
Buy
Nice.
it, people.
That's crazy. I mean, there was quite a few releases this past week or so. But getting
Yeah.
on to some of the other news, this one came out of nowhere. I think no one was really expecting this.
Yeah.
So it appears that Sonic Lost World is going to be coming to PC via Steam on November 2nd.
It's also pretty random too, right? It came out like 2 years ago, and they're like, "Yeah, you remember Sonic Lost World? There's a PC port now. 2 years later."
It's like,
Oh, yeah.
you guys been asking for Virtual On so much. Here, have Sonic Lost World.
That's what we wanted, right? That's what we wanted.
You guys like Sonic, right?
Oh
It was
man.
like, okay.
Yeah, I mean,
But I think that the game is gonna sell better than it did in Wii U.
it'll be almost exactly 2 years after. It was October 29th, 2013 is when it released on the Wii U. And this was really kind of, I guess you could say, the flagship game in that partnership between Sega and Nintendo. This was kind of the big game for that. Obviously, it did some disappointing sales numbers because I don't think at that time Sega probably realized how low of a
Wii U was going to
Fan
sell.
base?
was going to have. Yeah, I mean, I think that they, looking back, if you would have compared that to, like that deal, like when the Wii was released, I mean, they had like a billion more systems, around the world that they had sold. So it didn't sell very well. I mean, the game didn't actually review all that well either. I don't know what its Metacritic score is offhand. But okay, here it is. It has a 63 on the Wii U out of 100. So it's not that great. Honestly, I played the game. I really liked it. I don't know why.
Yeah, it is not bad.
If it was the movie, it'd be considered fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. So silver lining for
That's
Sonic
true.
Lost World.
I think a lot of people just dismissed it as a Mario Galaxy clone, which, I can understand that criticism. But I really liked it. I thought the graphics weren't that bad. I really enjoyed that. I really liked some of the gameplay. Wasn't a huge fan of having to hold down the right trigger to run. That was just one of my nitpicks on it. But overall, I liked the game.
You can't have a slow Sonic. That's a rule.
Yeah. So with this new release coming, it's going to have 60 frames per second gameplay. Now, this has also caused a little bit of confusion, too, because I've seen people around the internet saying that the Wii U version was running at 60 frames per second. So I don't remember.
But not at 180p.
Offhand. What's that?
But not at 180p.
True. Yeah, that's a good point. So should be running at full like 1080p. We don't know how high resolution it's going to be running at. Sega just said it's going to be HD resolution support. You'll also be able to play with the gamepad, which is going to be good news for those who don't like the gamepad on the Wii U. But you'll also have full Steam functionality, and the Nights into Dream stage is going to be included as well. Sadly, some of the cool Nintendo DLC is not going to be included for all.
Well, but it's understandable. Why would Nintendo throw Link into a PC system? Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we can get that.
That wasn't
And,
awesome, though. I really love that.
Yeah, I think the game really didn't have a fair chance. Like saying, for example, Sega's reasoning back in the day was like, okay, Nintendo, kids like Nintendo, Sonic is more appropriate for kids, and it should go on a Nintendo platform, and we also are running low on money, so let's sell an exclusive to them. And it was kind of a double-edged sword deal. So they actually made money by selling the exclusive, but actually lost a lot of rep by releasing it on Wii U because of the low sales that Wii U had.
And I think it's the pre-order right now is it $29.99? I think that's how much it costs.
Yeah, that's pretty low money for.
And if you pre-order it now, you can get a free copy of Sonic and All-Stars Racing Transformed on Steam.
Which is an awesome game, yeah.
Yeah,
And
that's one of the best games coming out of Sega in the past, like 5 or 6 years. It's an awesome game.
Right. Yep.
Cool.
And people still play it.
Yeah,
I have it on PC, so that pre-order bonus would be moot for me because I already have it. Damn. But I'll still probably buy Lost World just because I haven't played it on the Wii U. So I will give that one a look for sure.
Cock, you want to talk to us about the next news bit?
Which one is it? Is Sonic Lost World? Okay, Ryo Hazuki finally coming for Project X Zone 2 or Project Cross Zone 2. How do you guys pronounce it? Sorry, I'm Mexican.
I said.
I say Project X Zone 2.
Well, I got made fun of last time I said that. It's Project Cross Zone.
Okay, for Project Cross Zone 2.
I'm gonna call it X Zone. I'm stubborn. So.
Yeah, X Zone sounds like they are in the X Zone,
like
another dimension, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, well, anyway, sorry for the interruption. So, Ryo Hazuki is finally coming to this game. Like, the last week we already teased about it. Like, this was this Korean site that kind of leaked some information about it, but it wasn't entirely official. So it is now entirely official. There's already a video for it, and guys can watch it on our site. And, well, the lineup so far for Project X Zone looks pretty ambitious. Like, it has Sagata Sanshiro, it has Sakura Shinguyo from Sakura Wars, has Axel Stone from Streets of Rage, has the Yakuza characters, and it also has Space Channel 5 characters. A lot of stuff that is really pointed to the Sega, Capcom, and Bandai Namco fans. Like, if you're a really hardcore fan of any of these brands, this game has a lot of fan service for you. And it's a really simple RPG, but it's really entertaining. Like, and has a lot of good animations, and the animations were made by a Japanese studio that's called Trigger, who are the guys who made Kill la Kill, and were a former studio that was part of Gainax, who also made Evangelion series. So,
and I know that like the storyline is probably like gonna be crazy and convoluted with like plot holes galore, because you're taking major publishers and then crossing every single character with like their own background and story, and then throwing them all into the game.
But you know what's good about that? They make a lot of jokes with those things. Like the first title had a lot of puns. Like, for example, like Ryo making a joke to Akira, like saying like you're practically a copycat of me, and like both like having a joke with it. That's pretty fun. I think it works really well for that kind of game and that kind of universe.
And I also think, considering the devoted fan base of Shenmue, I think they probably sold another like 10,000 copies just because they announced that one. So I know I'm gonna pick it up. That's for sure. So
a fact for that story is that we just posted it and it made like 1,000 views in a couple of minutes.
Right.
It's telling you something.
Yeah, so, it does say something for sure.
Works for that.
So why don't we hop over to the next news piece? So Sega console themes have arrived to the 3DS now. Finally, right? We had actually reported on this early this year, but they're like, yeah, it's coming to the 3DS, but in Japan, so screw you, Westerners. And we were like, okay, that's fine. I guess we were like crossing our fingers and hoping that it was going to come, and it finally arrived, but for right now, it's only 2 themes, so Game Gear and the Sega Genesis one. Now, I have the Sega Genesis theme I just downloaded recently, so you guys can probably hear it. And if you see it right here, this is what it looks like. If I press on a button like the system settings, then you hear the classic Sega sound when you press a button, so that's pretty cool. Each one is currently costing $199, and I'm assuming the other ones will be the same as well. So right now, Game Gear and Genesis is currently out. Ones that you could look forward to in the upcoming months: the Sega Master System, the Sega Mark III, Sega Saturn, the high-tech Sega, which is actually an 80s-style Japanese arcade machine, the Sega SG-1000, and of course the Sega Dreamcast. And they will be announced soon, but they haven't given a specific release date. They just said coming soon. So, but be sure to look forward to those. I know I'm gonna pick one up. I'm gonna pick up the Dreamcast one from the future batches. I don't know. Are you guys gonna pick one of those? And if you do, which one?
I want to get one. I can't find my 3DS right now. I've been looking for it everywhere.
It's probably a box with the rest of your shit.
No, I've had it because I was playing Gunstar Heroes
Oh.
like a week ago, but I have no idea where it's at, so I don't know. The one thing I can say, when Sega says coming soon, you don't really know what that means because they could say coming soon
like 2 years
like
from
6
now.
months, yeah.
Yeah.
Or it could be coming soon and it's out the next day. You just never
Yes.
know what that actually means. So
Or coming soon, like
hopefully.
PSO2, and like delaying for years.
Yeah. Coming soon. Translation. Screw you, Western fan base. Coming soon.
What I think I want to do is I'm going to buy all of them when I finally find them, and then I'm going to set my themes to just rotate randomly. And that
Can you
way,
do
every
that?
time I open it up, yeah, you can do that. And
shit.
it'll be a surprise.
I didn't know you could do that. I might do that myself. That's pretty cool.
There you go. You
You
learned
just
something.
taught me something.
And a cool thing about these themes is that they localize it because, Japan has the Mega Drive theme, but we got the Sega Genesis theme.
Right.
So Japan doesn't have this one, and that's pretty cool. They did it.
Mm-hmm.
And for example, we got the Sega Seal of Quality on the Sega Genesis theme, and
Yeah. They're just
Stuff like
just the
that.
nice touches is really nice. And it's such a weird thing too. It's like we're currently at this age where Sega is doing they're focused as a software company, and it's like this weird thing. Like, look at the themes. We used to make consoles, and we were huge. And there's this like interesting dichotomy between now it's only Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft, and then you just like see Sega releasing like, look, our console themes. We had consoles before, and it's just I don't know. It's
I think the coolest part is that it makes like some kind of ownage of the other platform. For example, like people like paste stickers of the 16-bit typography on their 3DSs and add the Sega Genesis or Game Gear theme, and they actually make the console feel like it was a Sega console rather than a Nintendo one.
right.
That kind of sense of appropriation, like it's really bizarre but funny at all.
Yeah.
So the next bit of news is something that I don't know if it was to be expected or not, but so in an interview with GameIndustry.biz, Creative Assembly's studio director Tim Heaton was discussing some of the the future of the Alien Isolation franchise, and he says he essentially said that it's probably not going to happen just due to the fact that it didn't sell that much. And so this is what he said. 2.1 million sales, it just didn't break out. Am I happy about that? I'm not happy about that. I think it did under-index in America. I think the genre just didn't shine with an audience that would let it break out. 2 million is fine, let's be clear, but we were unsure right till the very end about whether we would hit that breakout space or not. Making a AAA console game is bloody hard. We absolutely sweated blood for that game. We came through and felt really happy at the end of it. Alien Isolation 2 is not out of the question because we're so proud of it and there's possibly more to be said, but do we really want to be spending very significant amounts of money and getting close to break even or just about in the black? That's not where Sega wants to be when we have a brilliant portfolio of other games that do great business. So I don't know how clearer you can get on that. Obviously, it's not coming from Sega officially that they're not going to be doing it, but this is from the guy who's running that studio who developed it. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think that now this is more of an analysis on why it maybe didn't sell well according to their standards. It's because of the track record of past Alien games, and it's sort of kind of people just kind of remember Alien. Okay, Colonial Marines. Oh, Colonial Marines is shit. Oh, probably not good. Alien Isolation isn't good either. And it doesn't help that there were major news sites that have a huge fan base like IGN that gives it a 5.9, and a lot of people, not everybody, but a lot of people actually rely on their reviews to purchase their games. Some people are like, oh look, this company gave it a 5.9, I'm not going to buy it because, well, they say it's shit, so it must be shit. So some people don't just buy it and form their own opinions. They actually just listen to the reviews. So I think it's a combination of the reviews that were coming out and the track record of just the Alien franchise as a whole. Because Colonial Marines didn't do well, so people kind of took that and went with that. So,
well,
yeah.
I think he was pretty honest on what the business was, because they invested a lot in buying the franchise from Fox, and it's obviously the game costed them a huge amount. They had to make something better than the previous versions that had a lot of backlash, and I think they invested more than $2 million, or well, not $2 million, or they invested a lot more than the money they gained for the game. So I think from the business standpoint, I think it didn't make that much money, or the money they required to actually call it a business. And I think that's the part that's disappointing the Sega Europe team that's responsible for this. But I don't think they are going to stop making a sequel for this game. But I think that this situation is making the game to delay a lot more. Like, for example, if the game was like a priority, it could have taken like a year or 2 years. I think we might see a sequel in 2 or 3 years because of this. Like, they're saying, let's take things slow. The game did sell well, but didn't make that much in terms of business perspective. So I think that's the thing, that they are thinking in doing it, but taking it like really cautiously now that they know that it might sell well, but they require to analyze how to finance that thing.
Do you really see this series, though, being one that would sell more than 2 million copies?
That's a problem. For example, there are some AAA games that, for example, cost like $10 million. Let's say like arbitrary quantities, and if it sells like 5 million copies and it only recovers like 7, you are not getting even either. And for example, let's say that Alien Isolation well, we know that it sold well, but let's say that the investment was really close to what they made profit from it. So if you're like almost even in your terms of winning and investing and winning, that doesn't make more margin for more money.
I also think we have to look at it also from a licensing perspective and the brand perspective. So let's just look at Alien the movie, right? So we didn't get an Alien. Well, we got Alien movies, but Alien vs. Predator and 2 weren't that good. But when it comes to the brand Alien, we haven't had a good Alien movie since 1980. What? In 89 Aliens. We've had Alien 3, Resurrection.
Prometheus sold well, but I didn't like the story.
Yeah, Prometheus, yeah. But I mean, like, to the average casual person, it says Prometheus, not Alien. So I'm talking about like just the name and the brand. I think Star Wars does well because it's the marketing at Disney is they'll have Star Wars toilet paper, they'll have Princess Leia shampoo, like screw her head off and you could pour a shampoo on her. You know what I mean? Like they slap Star Wars on anything and that brand image is ingrained in everyone. Alien won't do as well because the brand isn't as well known. So I think it's a combination of reviews, track record of bad games, and the Alien brand as a whole is not as popular as, like, let's say Star Wars. So I don't know if it could actually increase in sales. If they had maybe a movie to coincide with it, I think the sales would go up.
And I think what would be smart for them to do would be just to, if they still have the Alien franchise, which I don't know if that's been announced, if they still have the license.
The sequel to Prometheus. The sequel to Prometheus is actually going to have the word Alien in it.
Well, that's what I was going to say. So if Sega still has the license to be able to make Alien games, if they still retain that, and if it's going to extend, up until the point where the next movie is going to come out, which, like you said, is going to have the Aliens name attached to it. It's not going to be a Prometheus movie. It's going to be an Aliens movie. If they were, say, to go ahead and make a game based on that movie, make it a first-person shooter, which people love these days. That's like what everything is. They make it a first-person shooter that's either ties into the story somehow. Maybe it bridges, the Prometheus movie to this one a little bit closer. Does something to tie it in and releases right around the same time as the movie does. I think that could have a really good chance at selling a lot of copies, much more so than an Alien Isolation 2 that is, like a stealth-based horror game, which, let's just face it, those games, unless it's called Metal Gear Solid, those games just don't sell that much,
Mm-hmm.
And there's also another part that you guys threw in, is that how much of that profit has to go to Fox, because Sega has to pay some rights to Fox for using these games.
Well, I
Right.
think the money is when you license it. You pay the licensing fee, and you usually come up with an agreement on you're going to be developing and releasing so many games. So that money's probably been factored in up front when they did that. I'm sure they could go back in and say if they want to make a game based on that movie. I don't know what their deal is, but I think that's all factored in right at the beginning when they license those.
Yeah, but like we said, it's already a factor because, for example, let's say you agreed on a 10% or a certain amount of money. Like, if you invested that money, like acquiring the rights, and you didn't you just sold like 2 million copies, and part of that money that you invested is like cut from that investment, like that earning investment, like saying, I already invested in this and didn't earn that much. That's kind of the tricky part that I think they are considering on this article.
And based on the licensing agreement that they made, Sega may be contractually obligated to make another Alien game. We don't know. I mean, if they said that they were going to make a certain amount, I don't know how many games they agreed to. But say if they said, okay, we're going to make 4 Alien games, and this Isolation was like the 3rd or 4th game, they still have another game that they're obligated to release. They may have to release something. You know what I mean? So we don't know.
And there's also that part.
Isolation 2.
There's also that part that Fox do a lot. Like, for example, you have my license rights for a certain time, and if you don't release that title in that certain time, the rights go back to me, and that might be also in play. Fox do that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Does that a lot? Sorry.
That's true. So so we'll wait and see what happens with Alien Isolation 2. But I like the game. It's kind of a bummer that it didn't catch on with a bigger audience, but it's probably not going to end up happening. So I think we got one more piece of news. Copy. Why don't you take that one?
Yes. Earlier today, because it was already yesterday in Japan, there was a symphonic. Yeah, the thing is that they already hours ahead of us because rotation movement from the planet. So they're like 16 hours. Well, it depends on your zone, like 12, 16 hours ahead of us. Because Saturday was earlier for them than us. That's kind of what happens. Right. And so what happened is that earlier today for us and yesterday for them, is just, there was this symphonic SEGA concert that happened in Japan. And it was like a kind of big thing for the fans because they were finally able to listen to certain Sega classic melodies in a symphonic format, and not also by just any orchestra. It was the Tokyo Chamber Orchestra, but also by a director that is really used to do this kind of symphonic concert for video game music, which is Kenichi Shimura. And the thing is that also Sega music composers were collaborating for the arrangements and to the performance that was that happened live yesterday. Today, you know what I mean.
Yes.
And there were a lot of good classic Sega titles, like, for example, the Fantasy Zone theme. There was the Sonic Medley. There was the Space Channel 5. There was Virtua Fighter music. Daytona, which was played symphonic, and Takenobu Mitsuyoshi, who's the vocal part for that song, he was like singing it live for the people there. And Burning Rangers. And there was also like an encore with with other niche titles such as Romania and Sakura Wars or Sega Hard Girls. Actually, the concert finished with ended the concert with Sega Heartless Girls theme, and it was pretty incredible, like seeing all these reactions and how passionate they were doing this. So I'm pretty looking forward if Sega releases a DVD and CD for this, because there was like a lot of fans like asking, because we're not able to be there, but we will surely pay for a release like that.
Mm-hmm. No, I
And
agree.
let's
Because I
go.
mean, just a quick thing. We have certain concerts here that actually do surprisingly well, and they're video game centered. We had the video games live. We had I went to one when I was in 8th grade. Nerd alert! To this video game concert, and they were playing everything from Sonic the Hedgehog to Shenmue to Halo to World of Warcraft, and I thought it was great. So I think there's a market for that here if they brought a Sega
Yeah.
concert. So yeah.
And the cool thing about this is that it's Sega only, so it's like very, very oriented to the Sega fan.
Yes. Yes. So how about with that? Let's see what we've been playing this week, eh? Chris?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll go first, I guess. I missed out in the intro when we did that, but so I want to talk about some of the things that I picked up the last few weeks, and then I'll get into what we've been playing. I ended up buying a Retron 5 finally. I've been wanting to get one of those for a long time.
I saw the 3.
But come into the new house. I think I told you guys we don't have as much room in this place that we did in the last place. We lost almost like 1,000 square feet, maybe closer to 800. But our last house was really big. It was almost 3,000 square feet, and this house was like about 2,200 or so. With that said, I don't have like a huge game room anymore. We have a much smaller area that we have like set aside for that. So instead of that giant flat screen tube TV that I had that I plugged in all my retro consoles to, we had to get an LED TV in there. So I don't really have a way to plug in a lot of my old consoles anymore. And so the Retron 5 is perfect for me. I'm able to play all my Sega games. I can play my Master System games on it, and then some of my Nintendo and Super Nintendo games. I know there's a lot of people out there, the purists, the retro gaming purists, who don't like the Retron because it's essentially it emulates the games that you're playing. It basically downloads the information off the cartridge and then processes it and plays it to an emulator. For me, I really don't care. What I see is I plug in a cartridge, I press play, and it plays just like it does, on a Genesis. I don't really care what happens under the hood as long as the game is essentially the same, and it is. One of the neat things that you could do, though, is if you have an SD card, you can plug it into the back of the
console and
5.
save.
What's that?
Like plug it in the back of the console and save your cartridges, right?
You can save games, but what's even cooler is you can download saves for your games. And so you can download like just a giant save library off the Hyperkin site, and it essentially has like thousands of games that have like cheat codes for it. And so you can access cheat codes within the menu. Like, so say if you're playing a Sonic the Hedgehog and you want to start with like 99 lives, you can go into the menu, click cheats, and set whatever cheat code you want, and go back into the game, and it's done. It makes it very easy. You don't have to worry about it putting in like button combinations or passwords, any of that kind of stuff. It's all right there in the menu. It makes it super, super simple. What were you saying, Copy?
Yeah, like Game Genie.
Yeah, it's essentially like the Game Genie, but it's way easier because, like I said, you don't have to input a code in the Game Genie. You just select whatever cheat code you want, and it applies it, and you're into the game. So that's really neat.
Pretty nice. And I think that's pretty fine because people don't get that the guys that buy these things is because they want a simple way to play their games. They don't want complicated stuff like getting an RGB regulator for your flat screen so it can run properly the disc lines that are from those CRTV stuff. So I think that these devices really accomplish their goal to make it simple for the regular guy who just wants to play his old games. and I'm totally pro this type of retro consoles.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, and like you said, basically a time saver for me because I mean, I have a very limited time that I can actually play video games, just with work, with kids, and now that we bought a house, there's a lot of time. Just a lot of stuff that I have to do around that with that. So I don't have a lot of time for video games anymore, and I don't have time to be going into my closet like dragging out my 32X and plugging in the 400 cables it takes to get a Sega CD and 32X hooked up. So I don't have time for that. So just being able to go in and plug in a game and play it is a huge benefit for me. So I think I bought it for $125, well worth it. So I'm looking forward to it. I mean, the only thing is, you probably heard if you've listened to anything about the Retron 5 or read much about it. It can be a little tough getting the cartridges out of the cartridge slot. But as long as you're not a pansy, you can get them out easily enough. It takes a little muscle to get them out. Well, what is also going to be pretty cool, I haven't heard much mention of it since we've reported on it earlier in the year, but apparently Hyperkin's supposed to release a Master System
converter.
Yeah, exactly, for by the end of the year. Which would be
nice.
awesome. I'm sorry, not a Master System, Game Gear. It's going to be a Game Gear
that is nice.
add-on that you're going to be able to place into probably. I don't know what slot it's going to go in. They didn't really release a lot of information, but that's going to be cool because that's going to be the very first time that we'll ever be able to actually play Game Gear games on a TV without having to do some weird stuff to try to do some sort of video out on a Game Gear or just something crazy like that.
That's really nice because the old Game Gear screen really how do you say, really breaks a lot. You have to fix it a lot of times. So
it's terrible. Cool. Yeah, I mean, most Game Gears these days don't work anymore just because the capacitors are old and busted. I have 2 Game Gears that are broken and they're just sitting collecting dust. This is going to be a way for us, folks who like to play Game Gear games to be able to actually play them again, and it's going to be interesting to see what it does to Game Gear games for collectors. Are we going to see these games start going up in value now because we actually have a legitimate way to play it on our TV, which we haven't had before? So it's going to be interesting.
And I have a proposal for you. I bought the competition, the one that's called Retro Freak. So let's do a Retron versus Retro Freak article.
Yeah, you already have it?
No, I'm gonna receive it on November because the console releases on November.
Yeah,
but let's make an article like saying the pros and cons from the Retron, and let's say the pros and cons from the Retro Freak. For example, we know that Retro Freak is in Japanese, and it's obviously that Retron has an advantage because it's another language and stuff like that. But we know Retro Freaks has PC Engine, but Retron handles better certain parts of the hardware. So let's do a kind of an article. It would be interesting if you guys are up to it at first.
I think you guys would have to because I have neither. I have a Retron 3, so my argument would be invalid because you have a better Retron.
Don't worry about it. Let's do for the 3 of them.
Yeah, I definitely want to. I'm actually interested in getting a Retro Freak too because I think it plays TurboGrafx games too, doesn't it?
Yeah, PC Engine and TurboGrafx and Turbo Duo. That's the interesting part. That's the part that sold me the console. It was I'm finally gonna be able to play those ones on a flat screen. Games like.
But what will be amazing is when there is a game system maybe it's going to be the next iteration of the Retron. But it will have an optical drive in it where you can put in a disc and say it can emulate Sega CD games, TurboGrafx CD games, 3DO games, Saturn. You can just put any of your old game discs in there and it'll read it. And that would be the most amazing system ever if they could figure out a way to do that, and it would just read the disc and it would work. Oh my God, can you imagine how amazing that would be?
Saturn is pretty hard.
Oh, yeah.
I think that would be out of the questions because till this day we don't have a proper emulator for it. But I think PlayStation has an option, and maybe Nintendo 64. I think that those could work. Yep.
I think they're saying the 64 is going to be the next one they're going to be
Yeah.
able to do, because I think they have to wait a certain amount of time before they're able to legally add in
Oh boy.
some of that, and I think the Nintendo 64 is going to be the next one that they're looking at doing. So that'll be interesting. But anyway, as far as like what I've been playing, I was actually getting caught back up on The Witcher. I love that game, Witcher 3. It's so amazing. I just keep coming back to it and back to it. There's so much to do in that game. So I've been playing a little bit of that. I've been playing some of the Star Wars Battlefront beta. Like I said earlier, I'm really enjoying that. Man, that game's going to be really, really good. My sons have been playing it too. We downloaded both on Xbox One and our PlayStation 4, but I've just been playing on the PS4 version. I've heard that it runs a bit better on PS4. I don't know the full details or whatever on that.
You could also get it on PC if you download EA's Origin, I think it's called.
Origin, that thing, that horrible thing.
Yeah, so you have to jump through an extra hoop to play it on PC. But yeah.
What else did you play, Chris?
Oh, okay. I think I lost you for a second. I couldn't hear you. I also got Sonic 3 in the mail the other day, and so I've been playing a little bit of that. It's weird because I never really played Sonic 3 that much growing up. So going back and playing it, yeah, I don't know, for whatever reason, Sonic 2 was my thing. I never really played a lot of the other ones on the Genesis, so it's been fun going in and playing that. The one thing though is I don't know what's going on. The very first at the end of the very first level, you know how like the screen just fills up with fire and then you go on. It cuts out right then, and I don't know if it's my Retron or what, but it will freeze at that level. So fortunately, there's another save on the game that will begin me in like the second zone, so I can go past it and continue the game. So I don't know what's wrong with it. It just may need to get
Aqua City, yeah.
So we'll see about that. I should be getting Splatterhouse in on the TurboGrafx 16. Just being that it's October, I really want to get into some of the horror games again. I'm getting itch doing that. So Splatterhouse, I always want the Splatterhouse series, but it's ridiculous how much those games are on the Genesis. I mean, if you're looking at trying to get Splatterhouse 2 or 3, and especially if you're looking for a complete copy, it's going to run you well over $60 on eBay for each one of them. And I think Splatterhouse 3 is even more. Splatterhouse 1 is the same. It's up there. They're all like $60+ dollars. And so I ended up getting the TurboGrafx version just because it's a little cheaper, but I still spent like $50 on it. It's crazy.
Ouch. Yeah.
But I figured, hey, you know what? I'd rather get an old game that I really liked that is kind of uncommon these days, and the price is going up in it. Spend $50 on that, then say $60 on a new released game that I don't know if I'm going to keep playing more than a couple weeks. So that's how I end up convincing myself to buy some of these older games and spend a bunch of money on them. I was like, it's still about the same price as a new game, and it's a game that I've wanted for a long time, so that's what I end up doing. But more to come on Splatterhouse. Another thing, Splatterhouse, is James and Mike. I don't know if you guys watch James Rolfe, the Angry Video Game Nerd. Him and another guy on their channel, they'll do kind of like a Let's Play once a week, and they just did it on. They're doing all the Splatterhouse Genesis games. So they did Splatterhouse 1 last week, so next week should be Splatterhouse 2. It's a lot of fun watching them play that.
Nice.
It reminded me how hard that game is. It's very, very difficult. So. But that's pretty much what I've been playing. Who's up?
Sweet. I'll go. So I've been playing Alien Isolation, like I said earlier. Just a little bit about the gameplay. If you do have a surround sound system, it is like I am glad that they won a BAFTA for this for their audio. It is really, really, really good, and it keeps you on your toes, and it adds to the atmosphere, which is amazing. It also has this option in Alien Isolation where you could get a little more grainy screen, so it could be like the 1970s, late 1970s Alien movie, which is really,
Oh,
really
nice.
good. It adds to that atmosphere, that a grainy picture. Uh, yeah, I'm currently stuck on this one section where it's the second encounter with the alien, and I have to get to this elevator. So first you meet it, right? You get at the top of the vent. It falls through the vent, and then there's this cutscene where you hide from it, and then you have to try to avoid it. You have to get to the bottom floor, while trying not to get stabbed by the alien. So I've died multiple times, and it's hard. But I mean, they do give you the option to change the difficulty, but I'm gonna leave it at hard because on there it says the true way to play Alien Isolation, hard. So I'm like, you know what, fuck it, I'll play on hard, and I regretting it. But I'm gonna trudge through and try and beat the game.
I think you can, like, if there's like a difficult part, I think you can lower the difficulty for that section and then like bring it back up afterwards.
And I feel bad because I'm like, yeah, I just put on the training wheels and then I'll go back on, and I feel kind of dirty for doing that. You know what I mean? And then I played Metal Gear Solid 5. I beat it near the end of September. I'm not gonna say any spoilers because some people probably will kill me for that. But yeah, I for one enjoyed the ending. I know some people didn't like it. I could see where they said it was a little abrupt. They might have wanted more to flesh out the story, but I enjoyed it. And I started playing Metal Gear Online, which was launched last week. It's also pretty fun. I mean, given there were a couple bugs of, like, you know, jumping in and out of the matches, but yeah, I enjoyed it. So that's what I played these past 2 weeks.
Nice. Copy?
Yes.
The one that I played is Fighting Climax. I was playing it. I haven't been able to test the localized version because it's sold out here. So there's no way to like get it until it's restocked. So I want to try the localized version for it. But I made some pickups. I bought the Puyo Puyo on stage DVD, which we're doing an unboxing for this, and I also got a couple of Puyo Puyo figures. So we're doing an unboxing for the site regarding these ones, and the other pickups have to do with TGS. There's like a lot of stuff that we're gonna be doing also unboxings for the site, and I think that's pretty much it. I haven't been able to play much because I have to work a lot during these 2 weeks, and that's pretty much it.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's gonna wrap things up. Oh man,
Yep.
my throat's like going out on me, my voice. So that said, we're gonna wrap things up. We will be back. We're gonna really try to start doing these on a more regular basis. We got some other ideas for the show that I think you guys are gonna like. So more to come on that, and yeah. So we'll be back again, and hopefully we'll have some more good news to talk about next week. All right, take it easy, guys.
See ya.